Inferno, Canto 28. They arrive at the ninth gulf, where the sours of scandal, schismatics, and heretics are seen with their limbs miserably mangled. Mahomet, Piero de Medicina, Curio, Mosca, Bertrand de Borneo. Who e'en in language unconstrained by rhyme of all the blood and wounds I saw could speak, though he described their horrors many a time. No tongue forsooth but in the attempt must fail, our mind too finite, and our speech too weak to comprehend the woes I would detail, if in Apulia's memorable land, where all the grieving nations gathered round, who met destruction by the Romans' hand, or suffered by the sword in that long war, when erst with golden rings the spoils were crowned, as lively rites whose history doth not err. Those nations also who were doomed to feel the grievous blows of Robert Guiscard bold, those others too whose bones are gathered still at Caparan, that saw the Apulians fly, false to their lord, and where Alardo old, near Cagliacozzo, won the victory, and all could show their suffering limbs pierced through or lopped away. Naught were they to compare with what this ninth compartment gave to view. A cask, split down the middle or the end, gapes not so wide as one I witnessed there, ripped from the chin to where the haunches bend, between his legs the entrails hung, meanwhile the midriff and the opening paunch expands, receptacle of what is foul and vile. With steadfast gaze I viewed this sad estate, when eyeing me he tore him with his hands, and said, Lo, how my side I lacerate! Behold how Mahomet is rent in twain. Before me, mangled upwards from the chin into the brow, walks Ali, racked with pain, and all the others whom thou seest forlorn, on earth sowed seeds of scandal, and the sin of schism incurred, and therefore thus are torn. A devil is behind us who bestows these cruel wounds with sword of sharpest steel, and as we pass inflicts on each flesh blows. Oft as we traverse this accursed strand, for ever and anon our gashes heal, ere we again in his dread presence stand. But who art thou whom on the rock I find this musing, haply wishing to delay the pangs by heaven to their misdeeds assigned? Death hath not struck him yet, nor is he led by crime to punishment, but that he may obtain experience full, I who am dead, replied the bard, must his conductor be through the deep gulf of hell from round to round. This is as true as that I speak to thee. More than 100, when they heard the news, paused to behold me from the trench profound, in wonderment forgetting all their woes. Thou who perhaps the sun wilt shortly see, exhort Friar Dulcin, that with store of food, unless he wish full soon to follow me, he arm himself, lest straitened by the snow, a triumph to Navarra been allowed, or him to whom he could not overthrow. These words spake Mahomet to me, his foot upraised, as if in action to proceed, which now departing to the ground he put, another shade, who had his throat laid bare, and nose lopped off, in from the brows, and had remaining but one solitary ear, and with the rest in wonder lost had stood at gaze, advancing foremost, now displayed his windpipe opened and distained with blood. O thou whom guilt condemneth not, he cried, and whom in Latium I have surveyed, unless too much the likeness hath belied, on Pier de Medicina thought bestow. If thou once more that lovely plain behold, which from Vercelli slopes to Mercabo, and be these words Stefano's worthy twain, to Guido and Angeletto told, that if all foresight here is not in vain, they near Catalica shall overboard be cast and sunk in ocean by the guile and wicked treachery of a tyrant lord. So great a crime did never Neptune view betwixt Majorca and the Cyprian isle, and pirates wrought by an Argive crew. That traitor vile, but a single eye, who owns the fatal land, a spirit here, would wish, I deem, he never had been nigh. Them to a parley with him shall invite, and so contrive that neither vow nor prayer shall they require against Forcora's might. Then I point out and let the soul be seen, if upon earth you bid me speak of you. Who to that land would fain he ne'er had been? Raising his hand, he seized his comrade's cheek, and opening wide his jaws said, Take a view of him you mention. Lo, he cannot speak. From Caesar's mind this outcast took away the doubt he felt when he affirmed forsooth to men prepared 'tis fatal to delay. Oh, how cast down was Curio and dismayed, his tongue uprooted from within his mouth, who erst so boldly this assertion made, and one who was deprived of either hand, lifting the bleeding stumps amid the dun, dense air, so that the gore in his visage stained, cried, In thy mind let Mosca bear a place, who said, Alas the day, what's done is done, words fraught with misery to the Tuscan race. And of thy house the ruin let me add, quoth I, whereat redoubling moan on moan, he sped like one by sorrow struck and mad. I stood still gazing on the band aloof, and saw a thing I should have fear alone, thus to record with want of other proof, unless my conscience made me feel secure, that good companion which makes bold the man whose breastplate is, to know his thoughts are pure. I saw indeed, and still seem to see, a trunk without its head, which onward ran, like others of this mournful company. In by the hair he held the severed head, like to a lantern dangling in his hand. While viewing us intent, Ah me, he said, and thus unto himself a light was he. And two in one, and one in two I scanned. God only knows how such a thing could be. When to the bridge's foot we had drawn near, he raised his arm, and with it reared the head, its word thus bringing closer to our ear. Behold the agony in which I pine, thou who still breathing visitest the dead, behold if any pangs can equal mine. And that of me some tidings thou mayst take, Bertram de Borneo, be it known am I, who urged King John rebellious war to make. Father and son at enmity I set, nor did Ichabod with arts more sly David and Absalom's resentment whet. Because the bonds by nature formed I burst, my brain, alas, is severed from its source, which lies within this wretched trunk accursed. Thus retribution doth pursue its course.